This is my 1982 Honda CBX, the first motorcycle to ever break 100 horsepower with 6 cylinders. This bike was allegedly parked for about 10 years, and in the last video we got it started and running.
So today we're going to try to save this gas tank right here, and I'm hoping that we can bring this up to life, because I'm not sure how much these gas tanks are going for, but I'm sure they're a pretty penny, plus I'll have to paint it if I don't find one in the same color. And keep in mind, they've only made the CBX for like 4 years, and they only made this color for, I believe, 1. So the last time I tried to make this tank work, I put Rust through it. It seemed to maybe do something, but if you can tell on the inside of this tank, it's still pretty rough. First things first, we gotta drain the tank, because I did put gas in here just to stabilize the inside of the tank from the Rust so we didn't get some flash rust in it. And I gotta take that gas out. It's probably not gonna be the prettiest sight in the world. I don't remember how tight this is, but I guess we're about to find out. So now that we have the tank drained, we're gonna put vinegar. I have about 3 gallons of vinegar here. I'm gonna try doing 2. You're supposed to just fill, 1.5, 2 gallons-ish, but this tank is pretty bad.
As you can see here, I'm putting my petcock back onto my motorcycle. Do not do that. I repeat, do not put your petcock back onto your bike. The reason for this is it will eat the seal and your petcock will go bad and you have to rebuild it. It did take a while for that seal to get eaten up, but it did, and now I'm going to have to rebuild my petcock. Not the end of the world, but hopefully I can save you from doing the same thing. Now here what we're going to do is we're going to add distilled vinegar and distilled water to the tank. The water is going to basically act like a body that should fill the entirety of the tank up, and the vinegar with the acid is going to eat away at the rust. I put 3 gallons of vinegar and 2 gallons of water just because this tank is really bad and I wanted to make sure that vinegar ate it up.
I guess this tank is a 5-gallon tank and I did not realize, which would make sense for a CBX. Now we're gonna let this tank basically sit here, since it is filled to the brim, for 24 hours. I'm gonna check it, and then probably gonna be sitting here for closer to 48 hours. Just to kind of get up close, you guys can see how filled up that is. I actually might fill it up a little bit more. I probably shouldn't be touching there, but it's not quite all the way, but it's a majority of the way, and definitely everything underneath is covered. So I think we're gonna just put a little bit more. I'm gonna have to go get some more water. This is about an 18-hour update. Last night we probably fixed this around 6 o'clock or so. If we can see there, it is seeming to work. There's a lot of rust on the top. If I do tip this up, we can kind of see. It's kind of worked. Not really though.
Now, regardless of the petcock breaking or not, I was planning to remove the vinegar out at the 48-hour mark. At this point, we can see that it did clean a decent amount of the tank out, and it actually looks pretty nice. After washing it out with some water, we can see that a lot of that rust really got removed, but it's not quite all gone. If you don't stabilize the gas tank at this point, it will start to flash rust. I put a little bit of water to the very brim and I added baking soda, which should stabilize the tank. Now, as you saw, I wasn't quite satisfied with the results, so I went back, I added another batch, another 3 gallons of vinegar and another 2 gallons of water, and filled it back up and repeated the same process all over again.
We've gone ahead and done the next round of vinegar. We've pulled the vinegar out, and we've gone ahead and stabilized the tank one more time with baking soda. Baking soda will ensure that no flash rust happens in the tank. It is looking a little dirty in there, but dirt is not my problem. We gotta take the baking soda out. It's a nice and hot day, so I'm gonna leave the tank outside to dry now that it theoretically won't flash rust. So what I had done was I corked up that end, and just take a look at the inside of this tank. A little hard to see, but it is actually like almost perfectly clean. If you guys remember the before, this is the after, and you guys can see even in the corners all the way in there, it is almost spotless. Now there's still a little bit of junk in the tank here. Little bits of rust and stuff, still a little bit of water, but the tank is stable now. We can go ahead and add gasoline as soon as it dries out, but there's a process where we can take all of that junk out by simply attaching a magnet into the tank. We're gonna basically dip the tank in water, put a magnet inside of it, That magnet theoretically should pick up all the debris, but the one thing about that is it can't touch any of the body, and the CBX tank has a very sharp lip around the neck there, so I'm not sure if that's going to be possible, but for now this tank is cleaned and stabilized. So the objective of today's video, well, has been a success. I am going to dry it out with a little bit of air. And what I'm going to do now is just let it dry out, because this tank is now good to go for now. At some point we'll jump back into the tank and get all that stuff out while we work on the CBX project this winter. But the bike is sitting in the corner right here, so let's do a quick little update on it and talk to you about what it needs next, what part 3 is going to be, and seeing how much work we have ahead of us. So the bike sits right here. It's been sitting here for a while now, since the day we actually fired it up. I think even before we fired it up, the bike was in this corner. The bike currently has its trickle charger on it, and when we took the tank off the first day, we checked the carburetor, and the carburetor seemed to be very clean for how dirty the gas tank was. And we have proved that this bike will run and start, and the engine is completely fine. And well, a couple of days ago I thought, let me buy an external gas tank just to hang here and see if, well, the bike will fire up after I hook it up with some gasoline. So what we got going on right here is we got a little gasoline. We have this hooked up to the main carburetor, which goes into the vacuum pump, which feeds into the rest of the motorcycle. So hopefully, let's see if this bike will fire up with gas or not. It's a big question mark I've had for a little bit, and basically the sole reason why I bought this little gas container here. I actually have been meaning to buy one of these little things just for quick, easy access, because sometimes, you know, a tank might not be up to par, or the petcock isn't working properly, or whatever the case is, and this you can just quickly hook on and see what a bike is going to do. All right, so we have ignition. I'm just gonna turn this tap here on and raise it up higher than the bike here. Theoretically, we've got some gas in the carbs now, and let's see what it does. We know the bike is getting spark, and we know that it should turn on, theoretically, with the gas, unless the carburetors are all gunked up, and they looked pretty clean. I think by this time it would have and should have taken some gasoline into the carburetors and at least done something, if it was going to do something. But hey, why not just a little more gas into it? No dice. In order to take the carburetors out of a CBX, you have to tip the entire motor forward. So it's going to be a little bit of a bigger process, and we're hoping to get this thing fired and running before the end of this summer. So in the next update with this bike, the carbs will be out of it, they will be rebuilt, back on the bike, and hopefully she'll be back up running, and we'll be able to take this thing out for a ride. Getting that tank clean was one of the biggest steps into getting this bike to the next level where we want it to be. The plan is to take the carburetors out ourselves in the shop here, because we're gonna save a whole bunch on labor, but I am planning to send the carbs out to go get professionally synced, professionally bench tuned, professionally rebuilt by someone who really knows what they're doing, because I don't want to have to take the carbs on and off this bike multiple times and not do it right the first time. After the carbs get bench tuned and synced up, I actually have someone who said he would be willing and has done CBXs very locally to me, who's restoring another one of my bikes at the moment as well. But he said after the bench tune on the carburetors that he would actually tune my bike with the carbs on the bike and get it all dialed perfectly. I want someone who's had experience with CBXs to touch this bike, because I want to get it right the first time. I'm not really scared of the 6 carburetors. This one has 4, and well, I was planning to sync them up myself. Just for time's sake though, I think it's a smarter idea to have someone who knows what they're doing take care of it. But while we're here, if you guys have been following the channel, let me give you a little update on some of the motorcycles and some of the projects that are going on behind the scenes that you might not have seen in a while. CBX, my 750 would go there. RC51, I've been riding, enjoying this bike. In the wintertime, I'm going to do some proper maintenance to it, and that is pretty much it for this bike. Sitting next to that is my CB750 Super Sport here. This bike is actually for sale. I wanted to do a refresh on this bike and bring it back to original, but if this bike sells, it sells because I have another CB750 in this corner that is also going to need quite a bit of work. I have one of my two 75 Gold Wings right here. Both of them are red, the other one is there. I haven't touched either of these bikes yet, but this bike does start on starting fluid, and I did check that after I made the last video. Those two bikes are gonna be like a mini project for the winter. Just getting the carbs dialed in, valve jobs, and just doing the minor things that they need. And hopefully we'll take them out on a little road trip next year. Sitting right here is my CB404. I haven't touched the 404 since the day it came here. The bike is supposed to be running, but it doesn't run right now. I'm gonna pull the carbs off in not too distant future, and we're gonna dig into that bike. That's actually the next bike after the one sitting next to it that I want to attack. And of course the bike sitting next to it is my 1975 Yamaha SX650. Sitting next to the XS is the R6, and don't worry about the other two bikes that are sitting there. We'll talk about those when the time comes. I'm all sweaty and stuff. It's about 85 degrees in Wisconsin today, but jumping back to the Yamaha SX650, I have the carburetors taken currently apart. The bike was running, but unfortunately the bike has finally said, I need my carbs rebuilt. But the big problem we're having is the jets are in the bowl, and the jets have glued themselves to said bowl. So now I need to order new bowls or new carbs, which I'm currently waiting for, and when those arrive, we'll get the bike put back together. I do want to ride it one time, at least one time by the end of the summer. The Suzuki is currently for sale. I had my fun with it. I don't really have a need for the bike, and I'd rather work on some of the other stuff than give that bike the couple of small things that it needs. The Virago Cafe Racer, the CX Cafe Racer, the other Honda CB750 Cafe Racer, no updates on any of those bikes. Any bike that's not here right now is not getting touched or worked on. Now Friday, I'm going to show you guys the new motorcycle. I bought another bike that wasn't running, but this time in less than an hour, I got it running and riding. So in Friday, you guys will see all of that. I'm very excited for that bike. A little update and working on some of the bits on the CBX. Very, very soon, we should have multiple bikes back up on the road. That's all I have for this video. If you guys enjoyed, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below on what bike you're most interested in seeing in this garage right now. And if you're wondering, hey, where's this bike or this bike? They're not in the shop and you didn't mention them in this video. Did you sell them? I did not sell them. They're just around in different places. That's all I have, and I'll see you guys in the next one.